Hi, everybody. It's Gabby. I'm a health coach, and as you guys know, a lot of what I teach and a lot of who I am is about transparency, and it's about really owning where I am in my life stage right now. So I am feeling incredibly blessed because I am already at a significant milestone in my current pregnancy. I'm at 22 weeks on Tuesday, and my baby is the size of a banana, which, by the way, I can't get enough of right now. It seems like whatever fruit my baby is the size of is the one that I'm like totally inhaling that week. So this week is all about the bananas. But I'm here to talk to you also about loss. And the reason I'm here to talk to you about loss is because even though a lot of us, celebrate being pregnant and celebrate the births and so forth, not as often are we talking about, our experiences of loss throughout our fertility process and throughout our pregnancies. And my calendar reminded me, and rightfully so, I put a reminder last year that it's been a year since I lost a little one. So this is my rainbow baby that I have inside me right now. But a year and 2 days ago, I went in to have surgery to remove a child that did not make it. And the reason I wanted to bring that up today is not only to honor that process, but to make people also aware that sometimes these less dialogued events need to be brought forth, and there needs to be a lot more acceptance and a lot more understanding around these events that happen to women. So I wanted to talk a little bit about some of the feelings that came as a result of the loss, and then kind of how that differs from where I feel now. And then also provide you some insight. I have a couple of articles printed out, but I wanted to provide you with a little bit of insight as to how best support a woman, or how a woman can best support herself even during a time of loss, and especially during pregnancy. So obviously, as you're going through something like this, any loss is going to be traumatic. And as I went through my loss, I just remember feeling a little out of control. I felt very much at the whim or reign of whatever was going on around me. I was letting a lot of things happen to me, taking control wherever I could, right, to self-care and take longer baths and be with my children and kind of, like tune everything down a little bit, like downscale a little bit some of my responsibilities, not take on as much, those kinds of things. But honestly, you're kind of on a roller coaster and you don't have a finite end. You just are dealing with a lot of the symptoms whenever they come up. So, again, every loss that you experience is bound to bring on sadness. And so when I personally went through my loss, like I said, it was about a little over a year ago. It was an unexpected loss. I was currently using birth control, and I ended up being in a situation where I experienced loss and I was away from home. So that was traumatic in itself, and that I wasn't prepared, and I needed a lot of support from my family and friends to like get me the, feminine hygiene things that I needed. And then I had to quickly follow up with like doctor's appointments and still manage work and kids and all of these other things going on. But I want to talk about not only some negative feelings that I felt around loss, but also some positive feelings that I had around loss, because I think it's important to recognize both. And as you go through any loss, whether it's pregnancy or non-pregnancy related, I do recommend that even from a healing perspective, you start to kind of create a list like this for yourself, because it can be very therapeutic for you to see on paper what it was that you experienced, so that you can understand and sympathize also with others. But you can also begin to understand that you're not by yourself in this, that other people experience things like this as well. So I made a list. The negative feelings that I felt around my loss or throughout that period of time where I wasn't exactly sure what was going on. At first, I found out I was pregnant, and then I found out that there was a heartbeat, and then I found out that the circumstances inside my uterus were not favorable. The placenta wasn't fully attached. There was clouding in the fluid. There were polyps of blood. The baby was not growing as it should be. And then, body symptoms like nausea and metal taste in my mouth and weakening and all of these things. So I was, like I said, I felt like I was on a roller coaster and didn't know when it was going to end. Some of the negative feelings that I felt were desperation. Desperation because where I'm normally somebody who's pretty in control of their life and knows what's happening next, I didn't have that assurance of this is the next step. I just knew, once we rule this out, then this is where we can go. But until we knew or could rule something out, I was just kind of constantly on hold. So I felt like I was also in limbo. There was anger, and remember when I felt it, I was a little ashamed of feeling angry, because I said, Gabby, you've been blessed. You already have 3. Like, you shouldn't feel this anger, but I did anyways. And in retrospect, I'm glad that I felt it. Like, I was angry that I didn't have the answers, that I couldn't make my family feel better about what was going on with me, that I could only just tell them, this is where I am so far, and that had to be good enough. I'm so used to being the problem solver and being the one who has all the answers that I just remember like that frustration, that desperation leading to anger, that I didn't know more and that I couldn't control it. Again, lack of control, which we talked about. And one of the ones that I thought was so interesting, again, in recognition now in hindsight of the fact that I've had 3 at that point, and that they were successful pregnancies, and that they were healthy babies, and that I had felt good, and I had recovered and healed, and my body had done what it was supposed to. Throughout this process, though, I remember feeling brokenness and faultiness. Like, I couldn't create the circumstances for this child to survive, and that somehow I was at fault, and somehow I created this, and it just was not the case. As even statistically speaking, as I read more medically into what was going on, it was a very real possibility that all of this could happen, but it just didn't feel like it had to be me, right? So I felt like I must be broken. There must be something wrong that this is happening now. And then I also felt really weird and out of place. I ended up creating a lot of this projected judgment of myself from others. So it wasn't necessarily something that I experienced. Nobody came up to me and said, like, I can't believe you're faulty and broken, right? But I had a feeling somewhere deep inside that said, I can't tell people how I really feel. Like, as desperate, as connected. Like, I even felt really, really connected to this baby that didn't make it. I went through a process of even requesting remains and having them cremated, and like just all of these things that I felt were important ritualistically for me to heal and to have closure. And I didn't always feel like I could share those things with people, because I felt like I would be judged as like over the top or extreme, or just, I don't know, like too much. And in retrospect, I'm glad I did those things, because I did what felt right for me, regardless of what anybody else would think. But I definitely hesitated to share them in the moment because I really did feel like I would be judged. But I'm sharing them now. So things have changed. And I'm happy to be in a state now where I feel more supported and I feel like I can be transparent about my process. Some of the positive feelings that I felt during that time is incredibly fortunate. Despite everything that was going on, I just remember that was the one thing I heard over and over again that both hurt and helped me heal from others is, you're extremely fortunate. And there were times where I wasn't ready to hear that. There were times where I wanted to be angry at the people who said that to me. Gabby, you're extremely fortunate. You've had 3 babies that are like alive and well and healthy and all of these things. And I just remember being like, how dare you? Like, how dare you minimize how I feel right now about this one that has not yet been created, has not yet had the chance. But in retrospect, I'm really happy to hear it too, because sometimes when you can't see it for yourself, you need others to remind you how fortunate you are. I had my health, and throughout this whole process, I could still continue to do what I need to do for my family and myself, and intuitively care for myself. And like I said, scale down when I needed to scale down, add more leafy greens when I felt less energetic, incorporate a multivitamin. I was at a stage in my life where I not only knew what to do, but I could self-implement some of the things that I've been already prescribing to other health coaching clients of mine. I could start to do for myself and say, I'm in a place now where instead of allowing the crappiness to build on itself and feel worse, feel guilty, stay on the couch, just not eat, not nourish. I did everything I could to keep myself nourished and positive throughout that process. So I was very fortunate in that sense that I made that choice and that I knew to make those choices and that I had those tools in my toolbox. Without them, I'm not sure what the outcome would have been. I also felt tremendous relief when, even though every announcement or decision or, everything that was told to me by doctors always hurt a little bit, when they told me that the baby didn't have a heartbeat, or when they told me that the placenta was starting to detach, or, just all of these things. I just remember being like, could it possibly hurt anymore? Somewhere under there was a deep sense of relief to finally know. And to be, like I said, in a position where I have a way to know, right? I have the means to be able to afford an insurance that is giving me answers that I know that even though it might be a waiting period or that I may be in limbo for a period of time, that I'm going to get a response. So a tremendous sense of relief to finally know what was happening, to understand and grasp that there was actually an end. And I say that because I went through a period also where I had contractions and I thought I had actually delivered, miscarried, and I didn't. And it wasn't until I went back into the doctors where they said, actually, it's still there, and whatever came out was something different. Maybe part of that placenta, just other things that were going on that were issues inside of my body. Understanding and being able to grasp that it was finally at the end, that there was no heartbeat, that it was an official loss, allowed it to be now finally step one towards grieving and step one towards, what's next? How do I want to honor this? How do I move forward from this? What kind of support do I need? The other positive feeling that I felt was tremendous responsibility. I remember, even though everything was very volatile, like I said, not only did I do what came naturally, which is take responsibility for my family, but I also took tremendous responsibility for myself. I met my appointments. I was proactive about making sure that I had what I needed. So all of those things were really positive, and I really felt like I'd been successful at adulting, right? I'd fully taken responsibility, and I was doing everything I needed to do to take care of myself. So that was really good. And I also felt, strangely enough, after the fact, a tremendous sense of hope, because it made me realize that for every circumstance of loss, there's always a new opportunity ahead. And while that moment came and definitely crashed into our lives like a giant tidal wave, I also got to see people kind of shining in their true colors. So that whether that was my life partner or my parents or my kids, I got a chance to see them shine as supporters. And that was tremendously hopeful for me, because I realized that as much as I like to take on the world by myself sometimes and like to lead and, kind of go get it, that I did have support, and that I did have people looking out for me. And like I said, gratitude and assurance from the people and friends around me. So those were some of the things that I experienced. And throughout that period of time, I did actually take on a small project, which was speaking for the first time in front of a crowd of people to give a health talk, because I knew that I needed something to launch me forward. And it's interesting that now, almost, like I said, a little over a year later, I have transitioned from that first talk that I had literally around the same week as all of this was happening to now, a year later, having decided not only am I pregnant, which is amazing in and of itself. This baby is healthy and strong and, just full of life. And I feel amazing too. But I've also realized that my calling is to serve other women who are going through this process, whether it is a process of loss, whether it is a process where they're trying to ready their bodies to house a new baby, or whether they are already in that process and they're, discovering the challenges of dealing with their day-to-day lives, how to balance themselves, how to honor the generation of women who came before them, but still kind of create their own recipe for success in life. And then even afterwards, as they have this baby and they feel like, all the stories before them have told them that they have to be martyrs, now they can actually really embrace who they are, like the strength of themselves as creators, as women, as powerhouses, to say, I choose to make my life different. I choose to make my reality my own with this child, not in spite of this child, and not just on my free time, but all the time. So being where I am now, I am so tremendously grateful for the support I've received over the past year. I have grown so much. I'm so deeply grateful for all the people who have been in my life, who have seen me grow, who have practiced my health coaching with, who have heard me, cry and laugh and joke, and who now see me stepping into the role of a health coach who is focused on women at this critical stage in their lives, that are ready to become moms and are already new mommies and just need that extra support and that extra understanding. And who better, right? Like, who better to do this than somebody who's experienced both pregnancy and positivity and health, but has also, experienced the loss portion of it, has grown through her own process, is now redefining herself and who she wants to be. I feel really, really fortunate. But anyways, I hope you guys will stick with me on my journey. I have so much more coming for you guys soon. And as I develop my new program, which is going to be all about this whole mama idea, right? Like really nourishing the mama from the inside out and learning what are the foods and the activities and the social experiences that help her feel supported and help her feel like she's just able and willing to take on, another life and this new adventure of being a mommy. So I hope you guys will stay with me, and I look forward to talking to you guys soon. Take care.